The paper made a soft sound when it touched the table, not loud enough to interrupt the hum of the projector, but loud enough that everyone at the conference table looked down at it. 60% salary reduction. My wife didn't look at me when she slid it across. She adjusted the stack of performance summaries in front of her and said, evenly, given current restructuring needs, this is the most sustainable option. If you're unwilling to accept it, we'll need to explore alternatives. Explore alternatives. We both knew what that meant. The staff shifted in their seats. No one spoke. They weren't confused. They were calculating what this meant for them, what it meant about me. I had led client acquisition for 6 years. Revenue had grown every year but one. This wasn't about performance. It was about leverage. I need 24 hours, I said. My voice didn't crack. I didn't defend myself. I didn't look at her either. I folded the paper once and placed it back on the table between us. She nodded as if I had asked for a routine extension on a deadline. Of course, she said. But we'll need a decision by tomorrow's end of day. The meeting moved on. Budgets, staffing projections. Words like efficiency and alignment floated around the room as if nothing. Irreversible had just happened, but something had. We built the company together. That's the part that kept replaying in my head that night. There had been no HR department in the beginning, no policy binders, just 2 laptops at the dining room table and a shared belief that we could do this better than the firm we'd both left. She handled compliance, contracts, structure. I handled clients, relationships, growth. We used to joke that I was the face and she was the spine. Somewhere along the way, titles hardened. She became director of HR officially when the board expanded. I became head of business development. Our disagreements stopped being private conversations and started being documented exchanges. I sat at that same dining room table again that night. The house was quiet. She was upstairs, door closed. 60% wasn't a strategic trim. It was a message. I opened my laptop and searched my inbox for a name I hadn't responded to in months. Daniel Ruiz, CEO, our largest competitor. He'd reached out twice over the past year. Casual inquiries at first. If you're ever open to a conversation, I'd ignored them. Loyalty mattered to me. Marriage mattered to me. I stared at his last email for a long time before I typed back. Are you still interested in talking? He replied in under 15 minutes. I stepped outside to make the call. He didn't waste time. We've been watching your portfolio, he said. You're carrying more than half of your company's high-value accounts. If you ever decided to move, we'd be interested in bringing you in at executive level. I didn't tell him about the paper. I didn't need to. He could hear something in my pause. What would that look like? I asked. We spoke for an hour. Not about revenge. About structure. About autonomy. About compensation that reflected measurable outcomes. About bringing over key team members if they chose to follow. When I hung up, I didn't feel triumphant. I felt steady. By 10 the next morning, Daniel had emailed a formal proposal. Salary slightly higher than my current one. Signing bonus. Authority over a new division. Clear reporting lines to the board. There was one more detail. They were preparing to submit a strategic acquisition bid on one of our largest shared clients, contingent on my leadership of the transition. It wasn't hostile. It was business. But it was decisive. At noon, I forwarded my wife a short email requesting a meeting with the board present. I attached my resignation letter. She responded within minutes. Just one line. Is this necessary? I didn't answer. The emergency meeting was called for 3 o'clock. This time, the room felt different. Legal counsel dialed in remotely. Financial forecasts were projected on the wall. The board chair, a man who rarely attended operational reviews, sat at the head of the table. My wife presented first. She framed the salary reduction as restructuring necessity. Margin pressure, long-term sustainability. Then the board chair turned to me. Is this an accurate representation of your performance and role impact? He asked. It was the first time anyone had asked me directly. No, I said, calmly. My accounts represent 53% of recurring revenue. Client retention under my portfolio is at 92%. No formal performance concerns have been raised with me prior to yesterday. Silence. The board chair looked at the numbers on the screen, then at her. Why wasn't this discussed at executive level before being presented? In a full staff meeting? She hesitated. Just a second, but long enough. It was time-sensitive, she said. It was public, he replied. That was the moment control shifted, not dramatically, not explosively, just visibly. I slid my resignation letter across the table. The same gesture she had used the day before. I've accepted another offer, I said. I'll ensure a smooth transition over the next 4 weeks. Murmurs around the table. Legal straightened in their seat. The board chair asked where. I told them. He closed his eyes briefly. When he opened them, his voice was no longer neutral. Losing you creates material risk, he said, addressing the room. We will need to reassess yesterday's decision. But I shook my head. I'm not leveraging this for renegotiation, I said. I'm leaving. I didn't look at her when I said it. At home that night, we sat across from each other in the kitchen. No shouting. No accusations. Was this about the company? I asked quietly. Or about us? She didn't answer immediately. Her hands were folded tightly together. I needed to assert structure, she said finally. Things were becoming too personality-driven. I nodded. And I needed not to be dismantled in front of my own team. There wasn't much else to say. The salary reduction hadn't broken us. It had revealed something that had been eroding for a long time: respect, confused with authority, partnership replaced by hierarchy. I started at the new firm a month later. Several of my former team members joined over the following weeks. Others stayed. No one made dramatic exits. Transitions were professional. The competitor's acquisition bid went through. Our former company adjusted its projections. The market shifted. It always does. I didn't celebrate my first day. I didn't post about it. I walked into a new office with a clear desk and a clear title. Dignity doesn't announce itself. It returns quietly in the absence of humiliation. My marriage is recalibrating. We're in counseling. Some days feel practical. Some feel fragile. Success in one arena doesn't repair fracture in another. But when I think about that piece of paper sliding across the table, I don't feel anger anymore. I feel recognition. I asked for 24 hours. And in that space, I chose not to shrink.